I finally had to say to her, Jenny, if God is calling you home, you have to go. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, is to let go of your child and to give them permission to go. My name is Lisa Hodes. Hear my story. So I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Navy, so I lived all over the place growing up. And I met my husband through a mutual friend at church. I was so excited. I had always wanted to be a mom. And so when I went into labor, I was expecting everything to be normal. But it was anything but normal. And I remember hearing the doctor say, "Why is she having trouble breathing?" And I can remember I was laying in the recovery room and I kept thinking, this is taking a long time. And finally, Mike and the doctor came in. And I could tell by the look on Mike's face that nothing was right. The doctor explained to me that Jenny was born with a diaphragmatic hernia, which basically meant that her lungs had not developed. She had severely underdeveloped and damaged lungs, and that her chance for life was slim. But she seemed to survive. I mean, no matter what they did, the ups, the downs, she survived it. And I think it was through a lot of prayer. We clung to our faith during that time. And finally, at 3 months old, we got to take her home for the first time. But at 7 months old, she started needing more and more oxygen. And we went back to the doctor again, and they did some more x-rays, and they discovered that on top of being born with a diaphragmatic hernia, that as she started to grow, she also had spinal deformities. And so we flew out to Texas. She was number 17 in the world to ever have this done. So it was very early in the program. They would go in and every 6 months would kind of crank her open, for lack of a better explanation. And they would crank her open and give her lungs a little bit more room. And then she would grow a little bit, and then we'd go back out and they'd crank her open again. And so over time, she did get a little better. Her breathing seemed to be better. You know, I was there. I would be there with every surgery. I spent the nights in the hospital with her. I was her support. You know, we were very close emotionally. When you are the caregiver for somebody, it attaches you in a different way. So I was her mom, but I was the caretaker too. And she counted on me being there, and I would help her through things. We would talk through things. I would hold her hand for her and lay in the bed and give her hugs at night. And just be with her through it all for the years and years. When Jenny finished her second year of college, she came home for the summer, and she had been really struggling to breathe. She was out of breath a lot. We'd walk somewhere and she'd say, "Mom, stop, I have to catch my breath." And so I took her back to the doctor, and they decided to do one more surgery on Jenny. It was the same surgeries that she had had in Texas for so many years, and they were now doing them in Orlando. She was back on oxygen 24 hours a day by then. She was not able to go back to college in the fall. And she would walk from her bedroom to the kitchen, and she would be totally out of breath. So we knew we had to do something. So Jenny agreed to do the surgery. She signed the consent form herself because she said, "I don't want to live this way. I don't want to live attached to oxygen all my life and not be able to leave the house." We finally got out of the hospital and she went home, and she texted me and said, "Can you come to my room? I'm really in a lot of pain." And my husband and I both went into her bedroom, and she said, "I don't know why, but I'm really in a lot of pain." And so we stayed in the bedroom with her, and it helped her get through the night, and massaged her, and I put heat on it, and she wasn't breathing well. And so I called the doctor first thing in the morning, and they said, "Take her to the emergency room." And so I did, and they admitted her, and they said that she had pneumonia, and her lungs were very congested, and so they were admitting her back to ICU. That night, we were standing around her bed, we were talking to her, and she suddenly and unexpectedly went into cardiac arrest. And so she clung to life for 2 weeks, and at one point, I finally had to say to her, "Jenny, if God is calling you home, you have to go." And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, is to let go of your child and to give them permission to go. It's just excruciating. And so a couple days later, even on life support, she still died. And then began probably the hardest time of my life, was working through the grief and beginning to figure out how to go on without her. After Jenny died, I remember sitting on the couch and I remember thinking, I need somebody I can talk to. I need somebody that can fix this. And it was like God spoke to me and said, no one can fix this but me. And so I immediately knew I have to run to God. That is the only way I'm going to get through this grief, because grief can either destroy you or it can heal you. It can change you. It can transform you into something better, or it can make you a bitter and mean person. And I knew that I didn't want this grief to destroy me, that I had to go on with my life, and that God still had a purpose for my life. And so for me, I immediately went to the Bible and I started reading. I did studies on heaven. I did studies on eternal life, on hope, on strength, on God being my refuge. Anything there gave me hope, I was in the Word studying. And God spoke to me every day. I felt like it was kind of like being on a treasure hunt. It was like every day I got up excited going, okay, God, what are you going to show me today? I know you're going to give something to me that gives me hope for the day. And so that's where I found the strength to go on, was through God, through my faith. If you're struggling today with grief, with pain, with having the life that you didn't sign up for, know that God is there for you. He promises He never leaves us. He will never forsake us. He will get you through, and He is enough. The grief is heavy, pain is heavy, but there is eternal joy that's coming. God can take your story and turn it into something beautiful if you'll allow Him to.